Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in tonight. I am Yvette Lloyd, host of Life Heard Podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and catch up with all of our other videos and interviews that we previously had. I have an amazing guest with us tonight, Domonique Matthews. She is an amazing woman. She has been through so many trials and tribulations as far as in her personal life. She is the daughter of the Cussing Pastor Thaddeus Matthews, and she has tried her best to hide her battles as far as with stalkers, domestic violence, depression, father issues, public humiliation, negative comments, and suicidal thoughts. You name it, she's been through it. But however, she's going to help you get through it with her book that she released. It's called A Lady's Burn Book, and we're gonna talk so much more about it. Hey Domonique, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing real good. I'm doing real good. I am happy to have you tonight. It's amazing, and I'm so happy that you are able to be on my platform tonight to uplift all of the listeners, even a woman or a man, whoever that's gonna intake it. I already know you got something for them.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you. So first, we're gonna start off with your childhood. What was your upbringing like?
I had the normal upbringing. Mom, I was raised mostly by my mom and stepdad growing up. Me and my dad, um, more so got close in my adult years. Had a hardworking mother. Um, Pretty much had the normal upbringing that you would think of. Didn't want for nothing. Didn't realize we was poor until I was old enough to realize that we was a little out there. Never went hungry. But I mean, I had the basic upbringing, So it wasn't until I started getting up into them growing years is when things start to see where things start to change.
Oh yeah, I already know that feeling. So at what age did you find everything changing when you started going through different things called life?
I was pregnant at 16.
Okay.
At 16, after having my son, I had a mother who was determined for me to graduate from high school. So she took off for a whole year and watched my son while I finished my last year of high school. After I had my son, 3 weeks later, I had my first job. And so I didn't have the normal job like everybody else. My sister was a manager of a nightclub here in Memphis. And I started working at a club. That became my job. I was a waitress, and I waitress at a nightclub. And the crazy part was I was supposed to get off like at 12 o'clock, but that never happened. 12 o'clock is when all the money was kind of coming in, and so I was getting off at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, but still had to get up the next morning and go to school. So
Yeah.
let's say that senior year was a hard year when I started realizing, okay, I'm a mom and I got to go to school, and that's when the battle started. That's when things started to change.
Ooh, that's a lot though, but you had to do what you had to do, huh?
Yeah. It was like you ain't no baby no more. You done grown up. You grown up now.
Yeah, man. Welcome to adulthood at 16.
Yeah.
So as time progressed and went by, and you graduated, when did life start lifing for you? Because you've been through a lot as far as like domestic violence, depression, and everything.
So at 17 is when I got out on my own. I'll never forget the day my parents, where we stayed at, we could no longer afford where we stayed at. And it was right before my 18th birthday. And I remember my mom saying, um, on the 26th and the 27th, we had to be at the house. And that was like August the 26th, 27th. My birthday is September the 8th. Just had a birthday this weekend. But I was 17. and my mom said that we could no longer afford where we were staying at. I went to work that night. I don't know if I didn't believe it or not, but I came back home that evening and all my stuff was packed. And I had just enrolled in a community college and I had about $700 in my pocket. And right then, we couldn't afford where we stayed at. Basically, the question was, where am I for to go? At that time, I think I had my son was maybe a year old at the time. I moved into a hotel, an extended stay, with only $700. Um, the room was about $300 a week. I was staying in. On my 18th birthday, I had been searching for an apartment, but I knew I couldn't do nothing until I turned 18. So on my 18th birthday, it was a Friday, I went to class and left from the class and went to the apartment that I was trying to get. And that was my gift to myself. I ended up getting approved for my first apartment. So at 17, with a 1-year-old, trying to enroll myself in college, is when life started lifing. Had my own first apartment and thought I was what you called it back then, the baddest chick. That's what I thought I was. I thought I was the baddest chick. But soon after, my illness had started to go down. I was diagnosed with cervical cancer.
Wow.
And from there, after cervical cancer, I went through going through the treatments, and my mom was there. Had really good support, but then afterwards I was diagnosed with lupus.
Wow.
So life hit fast at a young
Yeah.
age. Hmm.
Yeah, did. Man, how was like your mental health going through all that? Because you hitting 18, you got bills to pay. You already
Hmm.
know that. But just the fact that you have so much of a burden on you and going through health issues and everything, how were you able to maintain mentally and knowing you had a 1, 2 year old baby?
You know what? The crazy part is the cervical cancer didn't hit me as hard as the lupus did. Because
Okay.
really, when I was going through all the cervical cancer with the cancer, I wasn't in as much pain as I was when I went through lupus. I had
Okay.
my mom that was really there, and I think my mama kind of shielded me a whole lot. Like, we're gonna get through this. This is just something we're doing, and it was fairly not a progress like other people have had to go through. What the lupus did was mimic the cancer. And
Okay.
from the cancer, I didn't know what my body was doing. I woke up one day and I had what I thought was ringworms around my whole body. My gums was swollen. My tongue was swollen. I was in this crazy agony of pain, and I didn't know what was going on. I felt like I went to sleep the day before, was fine, and woke up in just this crazy pain. And I
Wow.
remember thinking maybe it was the cancer, because that's the only illness at that time I knew. And I realized I went to the dentist office because my mouth was hurting me so bad. And I had just realized that I had became really an adult. I was kicked off my mama's insurance, and I was sitting at the dentist office and I was just crying because I was sobbing because I was hurting so bad. But because I had no insurance, they couldn't do nothing for me.
Wow.
And I remember this lady who husband was also battling cancer. She sat in the dentist office with me and she prayed for me. But I still, at this time, after, I still have no clue what was going on. So I finally get an appointment with my doctor, and they finally tell me that I had tested positive for lupus. At this time, nobody had ever heard of lupus. I had
Mhm.
never heard of lupus. They basically sent me home with a bunch of pamphlets, and I had to now figure out my body.
Man.
And so, with that being said, you have to, with lupus, lupus controls pretty much everything. I
Okay.
can't be
Yeah.
too happy. I can't be too sad. I can't be too enraged. Anything will cause me to flare. And so it became a battle every day. It became a
Yeah.
huge battle every day. So it became very depressing because some days I would wake up and I didn't look like this. I would wake up and my face would be Nutty Professor, or the ringworms, or the butterfly rashes would be out of control, so it drew me into entrepreneurship faster than anything because I couldn't go to nobody's job looking the way I was looking or feeling the way that I was feeling. And sometimes when those flares would go up, you would just have me on the floor screaming and hollering and crying myself to sleep until I just got tired and just went to sleep.
Wow.
So the lupus got me a whole lot more mental than the cancer kind of had me because it was just an ongoing pain.
Wow. My sister has lupus and she gets like blemishes like on her face. It'd be
Mm-hmm.
like different white spots on her face or her arm. Her arm be looking like it's on fire. Like it be
Mm-hmm.
so red and everything.
Yeah.
And it's painful. Like I don't some people need to realize that even like when if you in like a relationship or something or dealing with friends or anything, a lot of times it's hard for y'all to deal with people's personal lives, drama, things of that nature, because a lot of times that lupus will flare it up when you stressed out and you
Yeah.
having a fit. Like it's a lot to it and how tired y'all be too.
Correct.
Like extremely
Correct.
tired, like sleeping throughout the whole day. And I'm like, girl, you that tired? And it drains you. Like I've seen my sister like literally drain.
Yes. Yes. My favorite thing to do is sleep.
Yeah, I
My
bet.
favorite thing to do is sleep. So
I
yeah,
bet.
it gets you, but it's also what I had to learn because I've had this illness for so long. It becomes a mind thing too. It
Yes, it
does
does.
become a mind thing. Sometimes you just have to push yourself a whole lot more than you can. Sometimes I maybe push myself a little too far, and I know my body would tell me if I have pushed myself too far, because my body would literally shut down, literally just shut down. But I've learned to maintain it. It's not as hard on me now because what we 10 years plus in now,
Wow.
still my body does different things that I can't explain, cannot explain.
Wow.
But you just go with it and you just have to motivate yourself. You have to push yourself because I'm still mommy at the end of the day. I'm still superwoman
Yeah.
around here. So, I still have to get up and go. So, I just don't let it get me down as much. But back then at 18, 19, still trying to figure out yourself, figure out my body, you know, figuring out being a mom and whatever it is, it was a lot on me. But I had nothing but strong women around me to support me.
That's
Nothing but
good.
strong women.
That's a blessing because a lot of people aren't fortunate to have a village of women, strong women to be surrounded by them and have their back, especially somebody praying for you
Mm-hmm.
and in a positive way. Because you can't, everybody can't pray over you either,
Yeah.
because you're going through things like seriously. But it's a blessing that you had that village, especially to look over for your son, because that's a lot that you were going through. As far as like your cervical cancer, are you healed from that now?
I am. I
That is
am.
a blessing.
Um, yeah. I haven't had any other symptoms or anything since then. They surgically removed and they had got everything, and I've been fine ever since. So yeah, that was a blessing. So yeah.
Yes. So once you surpass that, and as far as in prayer and everything, what was the next journey of you stepping out on faith? Because I know you said you wanted to be a entrepreneur basically due to
hmm
you not having insurance and not being able to sustain your finances along the way.
Well, you know what? Entrepreneurship wasn't always the thing. I was just a bona fide hustler. I just knew I had to figure it out.
I know that's
I
right.
started bartending, and that was a lot of fast money. Bartending, I tell people what bartending is now was nothing how it was back in the day. Nothing how it was back in the day. And so I was bartending, and it was just fast money. I knew I had to be somebody, so I went to college. I had no clue what I want to be or who, still trying to figure myself out. Um, my favorite show was First 48. I decided to go in criminal justice. I didn't know what to do with my life. I knew I didn't want to be a police officer, but I could figure out a case. I used to be like, if I could be anything, I could do forensic science or be a detective. I could find some stuff
I know
out.
that's right.
So I went to school for criminal justice, and at night I would bartend or waitress at a club, and it got to the point I was working 2 and 3 clubs. Um, but the entrepreneurship came when my son started to get older, and I didn't want to be one of those moms that worked all the time. I didn't want to be one of those. Um, I didn't have a mom that worked all the time. My mom was very present in my life. And when it was football, and it was football, track, basketball, I wanted to be on the sidelines with everything. And so I got into, and the crazy part is, did criminal justice, started working at a dentist's office, went to school to become a dental assistant, worked as a dental assistant. It couldn't pay my bills. So I decided to one day get a job at a tax company. Now I get this job at this tax company, and this tax company was doing what they call holiday loans. I never heard of it. So basically what they was telling people, if you come in and get your taxes done, we'll give you some money. So I pulls up at this place, and it's a food stamp line outside the door. And so I'm like, "Whoa, everybody here to get their taxes done?" And they was like, I went and sat back in my car. I was like, hold on, this is not what I signed up for.
Right.
But I got into doing taxes and got real good at doing taxes. Became a numbers girl. From taxes, I started working at a bank. From a bank, I started learning all these different things when it came to finance, and then got into life insurance. And when I got into life insurance, everybody who was at the top of their game was all men. So I had to come in and be like, I need to be the top girl. That's how it came. And I used to compete, and I was competing until I was the top girl. And I was able to become a life insurance broker. And I did something so crazy. And my mom thought it was so crazy. But my thing was, I wanted to take care of the family, put it all on me. That's how I became. I wanted to be the person that became. So I got a house, a 4-bedroom house, moved my mom in, moved my nephew in, my son was in one room, and I quit my job. And they was like, what the hell?
Hey, you had faith. Sure. What the hell?
I did. When I got into insurance, I started making an extra $3,000 to $4,000 every month. And I was like, well, what if I was doing this full time? Like, what if I was just going hard, And then I started getting to a point I was making $10,000 a month. And then I was able to open up my own insurance office where I had 68 agents, you know what I'm saying? So I was doing the thing for a minute, And the cool part was I was able to be present as a mother. I was able to be at every game. I was able to be at all family functions. Entrepreneurship it gave me a certain freedom, but along with that freedom came a lot of ups and downs. It tries you. So I tell people, if you think entrepreneurship is easy, you don't want to work 8 hours for nobody else, but you got to work 24 hours for yourself.
Girl, you better say it.
Right. Those days when you don't feel like getting up, that means you don't make no money today.
Yeah.
So that's how my career started in, becoming an entrepreneurship. And then I realized I was my daddy's child. My dad was always preaching entrepreneurship. Don't work for nobody. And my daddy is probably the hardest headed man on earth. I don't even know anybody that tops the hard headedness of my dad. So I started to realize I had a lot of my daddy in me. And so I became one of those girls that, if I work somebody's job and you piss me off, I was like, I was that person.
It's so crazy. It's like I hear it now. I could just be cracking up because you talk about you turned into your dad. So most of our listeners don't know yet, y'all. Her dad is the cussing preacher, or the cussing pastor. Matthew. So what you like doing so much is so big. Did that affect you from your dad blowing up like that, as far as him being known as the cussing pastor?
See, my dad has always been Thaddeus Matthews. I've never knew him other than the Thaddeus Matthews. He always had a radio show as a kid. He always was somebody big. So when he became the cussing pastor, um, it was, I could say, maybe a little embarrassing at times because I'd be like, oh my God, like, what is he saying? Like, who raised you? Like, some of the things that would come out his mouth. But at one point in time, my dad, I used to tell people there's the Thaddeus Matthews show, and then it was a Thaddeus Matthews. To me, I knew a different side of him. So I could separate the entertainment, when it came to it. But being his daughter and being the fact of my dad was just a proud father at one point in time. He was proud father, and he would tell, he just wanted to show off his daughter. But I don't think my dad ever realized him showing off his daughter, the situations that it kind of put me into. I became a target on a lot of things because my dad pissed off a lot of people, so people start to realize that if you wanted to get at him, you just say something about me, and that would fire him up. So it became where I could watch my dad's show and somebody would bust out and say, well, that's why I fucked your daughter. And I'd be like, what the hell? Or, I had a woman decide, I think my dad was talking about this person who had called themselves exposing other men, a gay guy who had called himself exposing other men. And I don't know what my dad had said on the show that day, but I know I had got a message that morning from somebody was like, you may need to join this group. And so a girl decided to create a group around me to say if I was female or if I was male, and created a whole poll of people to decide if I was a female or if I was a male. I was like, I became a target socially, so it created a lot of things. My dad was my dad, and I supported my dad regardless. So I used to tell people, you can't, he's your entertainment. At the end of the day, he's still my dad. So it used to go that far, but it had its ups and its downs.
I bet it did. I bet it did. But did you find yourself, even though people, I mean, the internet say some harsh stuff. I mean, some harsh stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How did you use that, turn it into a positive, and use it as leverage?
I just didn't ever give back to what the people was giving out. I always just remain myself. I never thought of myself as a celebrity, local celebrity, or anything of that nature. Sometimes I would tell you, sometimes the comments would get to you. I learned a long time to stop watching the comments.
Yes.
But the comments will get to you. Would get to me sometimes. Sometimes I used to be on there going back and forth with people, going back and forth, like, but it became another, it just became on a different level when people started to get a little obsessed. I end up having 6 stalkers.
Really?
The last stalker I had was I caught inside my house, in my bedroom.
What?
It became where men, I don't know if some men wouldn't want to date me, but I had the situation where some men were scared to date me, and then when some men would date me, they talked about my daddy the whole time. So it's like, really. On top of that, I had, if I worked a couple of jobs. I mean, I worked a job where one time, when they found out who I was, they let me go. So it's, it was, sometimes I wanted to run away from being Thaddeus Matthews' daughter. It was at times, but then sometimes it worked in my favor. Some people was crazy about my dad, and it had its perks. So it was a good and a bad to it. I
Mm-hmm.
don't take nothing from it. I mean, I embraced it. I've always been myself. So I'm a humble person. Very humble.
Yes.
So it really, it had its ups and downs.
Wow. So, speaking of your humbleness, you took time out to write an amazing book. It's called A Lady's Burn Book. Could you be a lot more transparent and let us know exactly how did you think of this book? What made you think of this concept? Because y'all, when y'all hear this concept, it's fire. It really is. So tell us a little bit about this book.
So the Ladies Burn book is a self-care book. What I used to find myself was I, some of us don't do therapy, and then some of us try to talk to our family members, and we feel judged, and we don't, or we feel attacked. And so I had to start getting to a point where I felt like I started getting to a point I was getting very aggressive. I was feeling very attacked, and I was holding in a whole lot of things. Trying to be respectful, trying to be sometimes was probably being passive, and then sometimes it was starting to come off where I would just flip because I was holding so much in. And so I started to get to a point where I started journaling a whole lot. And
Mhm.
if I couldn't journal, I would sit in my closet and I would do videos. But some way I had to get everything that was going on with me out. And so, what the latest burn book is basically a self-help journal. It goes through about 18 different experiences that a lady will have experienced, from domestic violence to grief to father issues to mother issues to um, being molested, things of those natures. Every page has a topic where you can scream and holler and everything in that book. But at the end of the book, it tells you how to meditate, how to let it go, how to pray. And at the end of the book, you burn the book, symbolizing to let everything go. Because we can't. What happened to me at 5 years old? I can't keep still at 35 years old saying this is the reason why I am. At some point in time, things happen, and whatever happened made me to who I am. So at some point, for us to level up, we got to let things go. And so what I
Yeah.
tell people, if you feel like you can't trust nobody, if you don't want to go sit down at a therapist, if you ain't got time to sit down, we mothers, we may not even have time to sit down with a therapist and have that time with ourselves. But if maybe you can get that little time to self and write down and say, look, today I I sucked at being a mother. Those are real deal things. Sometimes we don't think we have it all. Maybe today I sucked as a mother. Today maybe I sucked as a wife. Maybe today I felt selfish and I wanted somebody to be there for me and they wasn't here for me. Or maybe the situation with my mother, or this is why I am, or I wish you would have did this. All those different things that you really can't verbally say out. You can write it down in this journal that you have, and at the end of it, burn it. Those are your thoughts. Those are your memories. That's you and God having that thought together, and burn it, and let's level up. Let's move on. How do we fix the situation? If I came from a broken home, just because I came from poverty doesn't mean my kids got to come from it. Sometimes,
Mhm.
sometimes as us being parents, we learn how to be better parents by what our parents didn't do. So it's always a learning thing. So I tell people, write it down, burn it up, pray about it, because God is doing wonderful things. We're going through things for a reason. We're being built for a reason. So burn it up. Let's level up. It's pretty much there.
Girl, listen, you just said a whole mouthful. You really did. But one of the things that I find is very important is forgiveness. Forgiveness is something very, very hard for people to do, and they don't understand how much power they are giving that next person. Because most of the time, when somebody done something to you, or you feel like you or out of place when it comes to dealing with people, they move forward. you still
Mhm.
stuck on it. They ain't thinking about it no more. They don't care about it or anything. They just like whatever it is, what it is. But you're still holding on to it, even though you know you may have respect, you may have morals, or you probably like, I wouldn't have done that to you. Why would you do that to me? You know, it's different things that transpire that go through our minds mentally for us to be able to move forward. And then another thing is just the fact of us leveling up. A lot of times that forgiveness calls us to level up when we end
Mhm.
up forgetting it to move forward. So I really appreciate you for writing a book like this and for people to be able to let go things that doesn't, you know, concern them anymore. Just like writing it out and reading it out loud, that's a part of the healing, you
Mhm.
know. It's a part of a healing. So in your book, you have areas where they could just write it out and they could do different things. You give them different steps within a book.
Correct. So in
Okay.
the book, it may be let's say domestic violence.
Okay.
I've went through domestic violence, and let me just be transparent. I've not been in a relationship where I have not fought a man. Let's just say that. And it started from being in a relationship where I was with a man who held me hostage in my house for 4 hours at gunpoint. And let me tell you something. When you went to a point where you are near death, and that was a day that I thought I knew that was gonna be over with. I knew that's how it was for the play out. I knew that's how it was gonna go. But the only thing I had, and one thing my mom instilled in me, at the end of the day, I prayed. And when I say with a gun to my head, I prayed out loud, out loud. And the more I would pray, and the more I would pray, and the more I would pray, the angry he got. The angry he got. And let me tell you something, still after that, I had to forgive him, not for him, not for him, but for the next situation. And it took me so long. And when I
Okay.
say it took me so long, that when I went into my next relationship, I was always on guard. I was always on guard. You couldn't say nothing to me. I was ready in fight mode because I was determined not to be the next girl that you read about that was killed by a jealous boyfriend.
Mm.
And I realized that I never really forgave him until maybe a year ago,
Wow.
because still I was carrying that into every other relationship. I was carrying that into other relationships. I also had to deal with the situation where um, when me and my dad, I think maybe the hardest situation is when me and my dad had a situation where we fell out. And
Mm.
when we fell out, it was public. And from there, I learned that, how you ever heard of somebody say you love, let's see how I want to put this. I realized that the man at that point that I loved so much was nothing but my father.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you hear the thing where people say your father is your first love.
Yeah.
I My dad was my first love. I mean, I was a daddy's girl. I was a true daddy's girl. And I think I wanted a man who was tough like my dad and was stern like my dad, and who was about his business and who was about his money and everything of that nature. But what my dad didn't have at that time was the soft part,
Yeah, to love you
the
correctly.
loving part. He gonna take care of business, he gonna take care of the home. And the man that I was in love with at that time, it wasn't until me and my dad fell out, and I said, I now realize why I love him so much, because he's you.
Oh.
And it took me a long time. I went to a point of a time where I didn't want to do anything that was like of my father. That was a hard thing. You brought up the situation with me and my dad, I would literally break down crying. And for about 9 months, I didn't talk to my dad. For about 9 months. And I couldn't forgive him. And my mom would say, you gotta forgive him. You gotta forgive him. And I kept saying, I don't know how. I don't know how. Like, how? You know what I'm saying? I'm holding this burden. Like, how? He was supposed to protect me. All these men who were supposed to say they love me were supposed to protect me. So all I knew was strong women. All I knew was to depend on a woman. With my mom, my sister, my cousins. You know, I had nothing but strong women. And I had felt at that time that the one man that I loved dearly had let me down. So I had put all men in that category.
Hmm.
And in order for me to let go and now be to where I am, where I can say now I can probably love again, I had to forgive my father. I had to forgive the one man that I love. And you know what I'm saying? And it took me the longest time. But what I would do is I would write it out. I would write it out. And I would just write and I would cry and I would write and I would cry. And only God heard those tears, you know. Only
Mhm.
God knew what was going on. And the more as it came, the easier it started to get. You know, they say over time, but the easier it got. And I remember when I had when my dad seeing my dad for the first time, really after the situation, and we actually talk. I'm so hardcore. I'm so hardcore. I'm that hardcore. I don't want to cry. I ain't gonna cry. Like, I ain't gonna cry for like my sons. They don't see me cry. You know, I'm a hardcore girl. Like, but you know, I had to forgive my dad, and my dad apologized every single time he see me. He apologized every single time he see me, and
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying, it was a situation that happened. You know, and but I had to release it, and you have to move on. You know,
You
and you
know.
know our relationship is getting better. But I'm looking at men a whole lot different. You know, so with that forgiving is releasing a whole lot of hurt from a lot of other men as well. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So had to, you know, and in order for me to get my husband, I gotta let go all
You
the
do.
the little boys or the that I had in the past to get that husband. You know, because we can't bring out this. And now I know that I can love him on a different level. I can appreciate on a different level. But then it's also just not to take a man that can deal with a woman that is just, you just can't lead me to the water and not tell me why we're going that way.
You're
You know?
right. You're right, right. You know, just the fact that you took accountability and you recognized exactly what was going on, like what was wrong. And that's the hard part that we deal with in any situation, is us holding ourselves accountable and being able to move forward. And a lot of times we don't know until we probably write something down and notice, like, man, I haven't healed from this. I haven't healed from this. I you we bottle up things so much, and do we just like keep going on with life to a point we're forgetting to heal from a situation, not
Mhm.
knowing we done created to be a spirit.
Yeah,
So when we create it to be that way, it's something embedded in us, and we find ourselves attracting that same spirit within somebody
correct.
else. And when we see somebody else acting that way, you got to think about it like, man, do I act like that too? Because we could introduce things to people not knowing that we're introducing it to them, of something that's within us, and then they start treating us that way.
And do you know what? When you write it down, read it out loud.
Yes, that
Sometimes we
part.
need to hear how crazy we are out loud. I tell people, and I can be transparent. I was in a relationship for 6 years. In 6 years, I can tell you about 14 times he cheated
Whew.
in one relationship.
And
And how
make
at that point of time, I didn't think I was worthy enough. I thought
mm.
I was winning. How I thought I was beating the other girls because he was still coming back. And then when I read it out loud, it was like, stupid. Like, do you not know who you are? You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
tell people now, when you realize who you are, you change the whole game. That's why I could
Mm-hmm.
be transparent and say, these are the things that happened to me. I have been through stalking. I have been through domestic. It's been times where I didn't feel like I was worthy. It was times where my self-esteem was low. And hell, I used to have bad chick on the back of my car. You know what I'm saying? When the song come on, she got her own house. She got her own car. I thought I was the baddest chick, but still it's something in me was still battling, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And for me to get to get older and get to the age that I am now and say, look, girl, you got a problem. Something ain't right. Are you feeling this type of way? Or you dealing with these type of why are we dealing with these type of men? Or why are we putting up with this? And it wasn't until I started to say stuff out loud, you know what I'm saying, and hear what was going on. Like, you know what I'm saying? 14 times. Like, what was you doing? Before you could get over another
Mm-hmm.
girl, it was another girl. Before you can get over this girl, it was another girl. You know what I'm saying? And what
Yeah.
that did to my self-esteem and what it did to me. And I had to take my own power back, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have to say to yourself, Dominique, you the finest girl in Memphis, you got a real booty around here. Or you got to say, look, you got degrees, you got money, you got your own car, you got to boost yourself up sometimes,
Yeah.
and say, you the prize. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You the prize. Look at you, a single mom, your son in full scholarship in college. I did that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I raised him. My son ain't in jail. He ain't out nowhere robbing nobody. He ain't, you know what I'm saying? He ain't being disrespectful. My kid is living a life that, my toddler is having fun and being a kid. You doing it, you get up some days and don't even feel like it, and you doing it. You have to boost yourself up.
You do.
And had to forgive myself. I had to forgive myself for taking myself through that. Sometimes it had got to the point where, you can't even blame yourself. You did what you did to me. Yeah. I can't blame nobody but myself because I allowed that to happen. I allow
Mm-hmm.
it to happen. So when it comes down to being, level up, you have to be down here to really level up, to realize,
Yeah.
look, you the baddest chick, or you that chick.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time. And I'm not saying that I've made it all the way, but can't nobody come in and do me the way they done me. No one could ever treat me the way they could treat me. When the red sign shows up, I can say, you know what, this ain't gonna work for me, partner. you know?
For real. For real. When you find yourself being healed, you notice things early anyway to even just get up out of there. You like, oh, this ain't about to work. I gotta go. And you just know, like, when something isn't going to work within a relationship, when you meet a guy, a lot of times early on because you're healed. So
Yeah.
when you healed, you already know, like, I'm not about to sit up here and deal with this. I see where this is going. I'm about to just get out now before it get worse later. And then
Yeah.
a lot of times it get harder to get out because you start to love him and think he gonna change and all. You gotta go.
I'm okay with, what I tell people right now, I'm okay with being single. I'm
That's
okay with not being
good.
knowing that I'm not being cheated on at night. I am okay with taking myself out to eat seafood and expensive dinner and everything. I'm okay with that right now because I
That's
think God
good.
have to sometimes, we get out of relationships and then we get into another one. That man gonna find me. I'm not looking for him. He gonna find me. But
Mhm.
when he find me, Dominique gonna be the best thing she gonna be right at that moment, and she's gonna have her own stuff together. And if he can't handle it, then we know he is not the one. If he can't handle it, Dominique have maybe wrote a book, or she wants to be a person who help people, or I mean, I've been with the most insecure men you could ever think of, and they had money and they had everything you thought they had, but some men want women who are less than them, mind wise,
True.
or have less than them, and I want my sons to see me as Supermom. When my boys see me, my son calls me Miss Make It Happen. That's what my son say. Mama gonna make it happen regardless. God, I tell people, I seen a sermon on TikTok the other day where the man said, I've never had enough money. He says, never been a time where I've never had enough money. But you know one thing? It always added up. It always added up.
Wow.
It always added up. It's been times where bills you didn't even know how it was, but I've gotten to a point, my faith is where it is, where you could tell me something's gonna happen, and now I don't stress about it, because why? He ain't never failed me. I ain't never went
Mhm.
without. I ain't never not had a house. I ain't never not had it. You know, it always get taken care of. It always adds up. So you think I'm
Wow.
gonna let somebody who no. No. We on some other stuff. Like, I want women to get to the point where, we can take ourselves back and say, and I hate when men say women can't be submissive. We very well can be
Oh
submissive.
yeah,
We very
definitely.
well can be
We
submissive.
we want to be
We
submissive.
want to be. I want to be a
Like
woman.
I
Look.
would be
You think
glad
I
to
want
be
these
one.
problems every day?
I will be happy to be submissive. Like,
I
okay.
want somebody to come in and say, "I got you. Don't worry about it." That's my love language right there. That's
Yes.
my, that's my love language. I got you. Oh yes. But
Hmm.
but when we're women and we've had to take care of everything ourselves,
It's
you
hard.
can't come in and just be a okie doke. You can't
Yeah.
come in and just play a woman who's already had to take care of things by herself. Because I'd rather struggle by myself than have to have somebody else in this house that's struggling with me. You can't hold
Girl,
your weight, and I'm always hold this weight by myself. What you doing?
you can't help
My
me.
daddy used to tell me all the time, a man who don't have who ain't got no money don't deserve no. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get yourself together.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
So
So when in your book, what do you want women to gain? Like when they get this book, it came in the mail. They about to open it. They get ready to get ready. What do you want them to develop within the first few pages of your book of getting started?
peace.
Yes.
I want people to get some type of peace, because the book starts from childhood. The first page is you talking about your childhood, and um, some of those things that we had in childhood, we've had, you know, I've had uncles to look at me a certain way,
Mm.
I've had situations, and when it comes down to childhood, sometimes we're still holding on to our childhood and saying what happened in our childhood is the reason we are as an adulthood, and that's not a true fact. And sometimes we got to let go of the hurt that happened in childhood. Then it goes from teenage, and then
Yeah.
it goes from, did you have mother issues? Did you have daddy issues? My mom didn't do everything right. My dad didn't do everything right. I learned to accept them from who they was. We have to accept our parents for who they were. We all are in different times.
That's true.
Um, God, I used to tell people, yeah, my dad did not biologically raise me as a kid. It was my mom and stepdad. But sometimes I used to I tell my son, who father was not there, God does things for a reason. He may not was meant to be there when you was a kid. He didn't need to mold you in his ways as a kid. You know, we every battle is a lesson.
It
Every
is.
battle is a lesson. And I don't take it lightly. When people ask me, and I have women all the time, they inboxes me about lupus and they say how you make it look easy. I don't know. I can't tell you. It's nothing but God. I wake up every morning and I pray. And I pray and I say, God, let this be the day. Sometimes I wake up and my lips are just huge. And I can feel it when I'm in my sleep or anything of that nature. I tell people it's not easy. I just
Mhm.
pray. I just keep moving. I keep going. I don't let my mind, or don't let the devil get in my mind saying, look, you can't do this.
Yeah.
You just have to keep pushing every day. If he woke me up today, it was something else I was still meant to do today. It was something that I was meant. And so I feel like when God didn't put me through all these different things to not give a testimony on look, girl, we can make it. We can do this together. If you need a sister to lean on, as women, we just got to come together. We all are usually battling the same situations as women.
Yes.
You know, some of you hear some of us are tired of being moms and want things to be about us for a minute. And I'm not just a mom. My life didn't end when I became a mom. I can go out, I can have fun, I can still be a woman. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and sometimes you want to say that and not feel guilty about it.
I
you know
know.
and so those are things that we can say. We may be grieving over family members. Somebody may have to left us, and we're trying to face that. And we don't know how to put those into words. So create your own story in this book. Create your own piece. Get you some wine. I'm a Jack girl. I like Jack Daniels. Sit down, have you some me time. If you got Sometimes that me time may have to be closing that door. I have a 3-year-old. If I go to the bathroom, my 3-year-old will sit there on the floor with his tablet. I know we don't get
I
privacy.
believe it.
I know we don't get privacy. Sometimes you pull up in the car and you just sit in the car sometimes. So,
Yeah.
you make this book as just something to carry in your purse until you get to the end of it. And when you get to the end of it, maybe it could be something that all women can do together. Have a party and, maybe pick a subject and we can all talk about it together and just have a burn party. You know what I'm saying? Come as
Yeah.
women together and say, look, we moving on. We moving past the hurt, the heartbreaking, and, everything else. And let's move into healing. Let's move into taking
Mhm.
trips and living life to the fullest and making money, getting a bag, being the best mothers we can be, saving our
Yeah.
kids. Um, and so that's where it comes from. I just want people to get some type of peace of mind because suicide is real thoughts. Some people really
It
think
is.
that, if I wasn't here, things would be better. And the only thing that made me to the point of where it never got too far is because I have boys that I think can't nobody in this world take care of better than me.
Oh,
That was
that's
it.
impressive.
The times when things was hard, when things was pain, can't nobody take care of not they daddies. Nobody can take care of my boys like I can. And I would dare not be selfish to leave them to be untaken care of like they should be because they didn't ask to be here. So mama has
Yeah.
to suck it up. Mama got to go in the bathroom and she got to cry it out. She got to go write it down for a second. She got to pray. I got to burn it because at the end of the day, them boys need me.
Yes, they
And so
do.
that's what we have to do. You know, we
Yeah.
have to it's hard being strong sometimes, but society has put black women in a corner where we have no choice but to be strong.
Yes. And sometimes we get tired of being strong.
Get tired of being strong. Ooh.
Just so tired of it. Be like, man, just let me just cry for a moment and release this and just be me, feel free. But it's like always something comes up for us. We have to just be right back in the soldier position and be
Hmm.
strong all over again. It
Yeah.
it is so hard being a woman. It's
Yeah.
so hard. It's so hard. You have to look a certain way. You got to do certain things. You got to say certain things. You got to be precautious. And sometimes when I be looking at a lot of things, a lot of times, if we really think about it as women and we really just let it register, everyone wants to be like us.
Yeah.
Every,
Everybody.
everyone wants to be like us. And we need to learn how to embrace that
Hmm.
and understand, like, yeah, I am the shit.
Yeah.
Because you do want to be like me, and it's not even like in a cocky way. It's just it should be like in a blessed way for us to understand it and know our path and the
Yeah.
direction we can go in if we just embrace that, heal from that, be at peace, love ourselves, do all of
Hmm.
the amazing healing things for us to be able to continue to move forward and just think about how much life can be so amazing if we
Hmm.
were healed in that peace and have faith and let God guide us.
Yeah.
It sounds so simple, but it's so hard.
It is. It is.
It is
But you
something
gotta, it's gotta find some type of inner peace, you know.
to
So some days you just
do.
gotta take yourself out to lunch.
You
Some days you gotta
do.
take yourself out, you know, and get that time, sit at the river, or you know, I'm just real good with the fact of that I just built a relationship with God, and like I said, when I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone else, when I felt like I couldn't do therapy, I didn't, when I didn't have the words, you know, I built a relationship where, you know, I had to talk, you know, I had to get it out. I had to say it out loud. You know, sometimes I remember I used to be crying, Lord, take these feelings away. I don't want to be in love with this person no more, you know, trying to
Mhm.
take that away, you know, those things that you don't have to pray yourself through, you know, and you can be around a lot. I mean, but I've been around women who situations are worse than mine. You
Yes.
know, you think you have it hard until you hear somebody else, and you like, Lord,
Girl, like,
you know.
baby, I'm crying about this. Shoot. You know, yes. Getting in those situations is something else. It'll humble you real quick.
So
It
yeah,
really do. Wow. So, how can people purchase your book?
um, the website is called a ladies book, like a ladiesburnbook.com.
Mm-hmm.
You get the book. You can do, if you're in Memphis, I can you can do pickup, or I can ship it out to you. So the book is $20. It's a book that you're gonna write in, you're going to meditate in, you're gonna cry in, you're gonna drink your wine, and at the end of it, you're gonna meditate and you're gonna bring yourself to some type of peace, and then you're gonna burn it. And, you know, or you throw it away, or but what you want to do is, I want people to just release what's going on and be truthful, you know, cry,
Yeah.
say what you don't want to say. If you want to say F those kids, say that may be what you feel that day. You know, say whatever you want to say, curse in that book, holler in that book, scream in that book, but get it out and know that you are trying to move on to be a better woman, a woman that you can help with other women with healing, and you know, and just forgive. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
what happened has happened. We can't
Yes.
change it. We can't turn back the hands of the times. We can't do nothing but let it go. So let's let it go. Let's move forward, and let's become women, and that's gonna help each other move forward. You know, it's enough money out here for everybody. It's enough love out here for everybody. You know, we ain't gotta hate on each other as women. We all are beautiful in different ways. Um, you know, and it's just time to move on to something positive. There's so much evil in this world. It's just nice to just see something positive, or
Yes.
feel positive, feel like, some type of good is
Yes.
going on in this world.
Yes. So,
So you can
how
get that book at my ladiesburnbook.com.
I know that's right. So, do you have anything coming up as far as like book releases or another book?
I am thinking about creating some more. Yeah, I am. My juices are flowing. I don't have anything in just yet, but what I just want to do, I just want to start getting in front of more people, in front of more ladies, more women empowerment, and just helping people and telling my story, being just transparent. I just want to preach my gospel. I'm not a preacher. I mean, I know I come from a preaching background, but I'm not a preacher, I'm not a reverend, but I do feel like I have a story that could help women. You know, I could be, and I just want to help women. You know, I just feel like that's my calling. I'm a girl's girl. That's what I am. Um, I just love to see women just prosper and be big and just be bold and be like, yeah, chick, let's go. You know what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
love it. And so if I can be a part of it, you know, anybody who's wanting to, you know, reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. I'm Domonique Michelle on Facebook. On Instagram, Domo CEO 901 at Instagram. And I'm just trying to get, you know, in front of many people I can and just tell my story, you know, just
Mhm.
doing the Lord's work.
Well, you doing it. You doing it. I really appreciate you for being on my podcast show and just being so transparent and open and creating something so amazing for people to be able to release things and heal and be transparent within themselves and their own household. And shoot, you might creep up some things right in this, like you think like, man, I forgot all about this. Because you know,
Mhm.
we have things so deep within us, we just kept moving on forward in life and we never sat and thought about it to like pause and pray, you know.
Correct.
So I really appreciate you for even creating this and the fact that you want individuals to like get rid of it, burn it or something afterwards. That's just a whole different level of a feeling because you're not only just burning the book, you burning what's within it and within you. So
Yeah,
I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you for allowing me to tell my story. I really do appreciate it.
Yes. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in tonight on Life Hurt Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and play back all of the other interviews that we previously had. And this interview tonight is just amazing. So thank you and have a good night, y'all.